Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Come to you for kind of a late delayed Friday reads. Maybe I should just call it Sunday reads. I don't know. But I wanted to come tell you about my week and how things went and where my reading's at and just give you a weekly update. So I hope everyone's doing well. The past week, the weather has been kind of goofy. We went from with our middle school football team, we went from the first week of school, everything, the temperatures were in the 90s, and it was like super hot, and you walk outside to go to practice, and feels like somebody's standing on your chest because the humidity is so high, and then the second week of practice, we came through, and the temperatures had dropped to in the 80s, and well, mid 80s anyway, so it was still fairly warm, but it was a lot better than what it was. And so we've been in the 80s, 90s with our temperatures, and then last Tuesday we finally went to play our game, and oh my gosh, it went from being beautiful weather over the weekend to on Tuesday it was 44 degrees outside. It was raining and the wind was blowing awfully hard. I don't know what the wind chill was, but it was cold. my my kids were freezing their tail ends off, and I was cold, and it's kind of hard to tell your kids to suck it up when your fingers are like totally numb, and my fingers were still hurting the next morning at school. They were still a little tingly, so it was quite the ordeal, but. Anyway, last weekend, I had originally planned on working on the client, and I did not end up doing that. I ended up reading the book Chasing Lincoln's Killer, and I finished that over the weekend and was able to give that back to the kid at school that had let me borrow it. I was doing it as my SSR read, but I decided to go ahead and finish it last weekend, so I wasn't hanging on to his book for a long extended period of time. But that was a really good book. James Swanson does a good job of taking a whole lot of detail and putting it into a very fast-paced, moving story, which I always enjoyed Jim Bishop's Lincoln's Last Day, where he goes like minute by minute of everything that happened during the assassination and all of that. That's good, but for a middle school to like freshman age kid, they might not like that so much. It might be a little too much detail and a little slower paced story, whereas with the way James Swanson writes, it was just nothing but constant action, 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 and it really carried the story. And he just does a really good job. He took a lot of detail and compacted it into a fast-paced story, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've read a lot of books on Lincoln, and I've read a couple of them specifically on the assassination and the chasing of John Wilkes Booth, and I think Swanson does in this middle school to high school age book, he does just as good a job as any of those adult readings did that I've read on the assassination. So I would highly recommend that book to anybody looking for a book on the assassination of Lincoln and the chasing of John Wilkes Booth. I thought he did a really good job, and it's a super fast read. You can read it in one sitting if you got a couple hours, and it just moves real fast. So anyway, I read that last weekend. I'm not going to do a full book review on that, but it was really good. I was pleasantly surprised. I've got two other books by Swanson on the assassination and trying to chase down John Wilkes Booth, and they're adult books, and I have not read those yet. But now I'm really looking forward to reading them because I've seen what he can do with a little kid's book, and I'm sure he uses that same talent in the adult book. So that was what we did. We didn't really do anything for Labor Day, nothing special on Monday, but Tuesday, like I said, was a big day for us and the boys at school. We got to go play some football, and they went and we got beat again, we were playing, not that it's an excuse because both teams were playing in it, but we played in the rain and the wind and just cold. And the kids found out what the coaches meant by you got to win the turnover battle. And we got a little fumble happy. And so gave the other team a lot more opportunities than we got with the ball. And we ended up getting beat 26-8. And that didn't sit well with the kids. So I will say that I think they learned from it, because the rest of the practices, Tuesday's usually a shorter practice. We usually do some weights, and then we go do some walkthrough and talk about things we need to work on. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday we work on those. And they did a really good job at practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They struggled to wrap up when they were tackling, and then in practice they really keyed on that, and they did just a lot better job wrapping in practice. And so I'm pretty excited to see, made a couple switches, and I'm just excited to see where we're at Monday. We got to go on the road again, and we'll just see where we're at, and hopefully everything plays out well. So throughout the week at school, one of the things I've been reading with my kids at school is William Bradford's History of Plymouth Plantation. I have a book called Eyewitness to History, and it's a bunch of stories, different segments from history, from primary sources. And there's a segment that's been taken out of William Bradford's history book. So it's not the entire book. Oh, no way. We would never get through it. It was just a short segment telling about the trip that the Pilgrims made on the Mayflower, and then when they got here and establishing peace with the Native Americans. And the kids really liked that. We have to go through it pretty slow because there's just a lot of vocab in there they don't use in their everyday language, and so we have to go through and kind of give definitions for some of these words and what they mean. And I'm guessing Mark Richardson would do well with this reading, because there's a whole bunch of nautical terms in there, and he's really good at the Navy stuff, and so I'm guessing he would do well with this. But my middle school kids, they need help in it. And so what we do is we read that account, and we go through and we write out all the vocab, the new words, and try to explain those. And one of the things I'm really working with the kids is visualizing your reading, because I want them to become better readers, to enjoy reading. And I just think one of the keys to enjoying reading is to be able to visualize that. And so we work on visualization in this reading, and so we put together this whole vocab. We got 3 comprehension questions at the end, but then we have a little bit of fun, and we create. I tell them to kind of have a movie playing in your head as you're reading this. Make a movie in your head, and put actors to the movie and all that kind of stuff. Just to make it entertaining for them, because the more entertaining, the more they're going to want to read. And so I tell them to push pause on their favorite moment in the reading and then put it to paper. And so we do a color picture. They have to do a title. They have to create a caption that uses 3 of these new vocab words correctly. And and then they turn that in, and we hang them out on the wall. Nobody's names are on them, but we hang them out on the wall, and then we vote on which one's the best. And the winner in the end gets I buy them a soda pop, Gatorade, water, whatever they're wanting, and a candy bar. And so it gives a little incentive to try to do a good job. But they always like that. And then we look at the overall role that the Pilgrims play in establishing Plymouth Colony, and then later on Massachusetts Bay, because it blends into the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and what that does for just the American colonies, and then eventually, of course, they end up turning into the United States. But we look at that overall role. And so one of the things I also like to do is I use Desperate Crossing, which is a movie that History Channel put together, and they used in that movie, they use historian Nathaniel Philbrick's book, The Mayflower. And so I try to tie all that in, and then we watch that movie, and it gives them a good visual of what coming over on the boat was like. It gives them a good visual of just how they dressed, what they ate, and they bust a lot of myths in that little documentary on what that first Thanksgiving was like. And so I really try to take with the kids, and I try to show them, you know, in elementary when we learn this story, it's the same story, but, you know, we kind of learn things in black and white, and, you know, there's no gray area. But now that we're in middle school, we are going to look at that gray area. And, you know, we look at these pilgrims as great people. And I mean, they were brave and everything, but they weren't perfect. They were human. They were sinful people. And there were some things they did that were pretty bad. And so I try to give them both sides of that perspective. And I try to bring in, you know, the Native American side of that and what that meant to the Native Americans in the northeastern United States. And so, anyway, we've been reading that in class, and so I went on my phone, on my ebooks, and I found the free version of that on ebooks, and so I'm going to start reading the entire history of Plymouth Plantation. I'm going to make an attempt to read that because I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to have the book. I just don't have it, and so I was like, well, maybe I can do it on my phone when I'm waiting on my wife to finish shopping, and so anyway, that's the plan. I've still been working on, like I said, the client. Was reading on this morning. I am past the halfway mark. I plan to read on this, you know, this afternoon. I don't know if that'll happen. My reading plan might change like it did last week. Sorry about that. But I'm going to read that and then move into that next Grisham book, just like I told you last week. I've made some strides in Nixon. I feel like I'm living in 1973 and 1974. You know, the people were waiting for him to resign, and it was a long, drawn-out process, and it became very burdensome. And guess what? That's how I feel. I should have looked at the chapter titles. I didn't pay attention to the chapter titles this time around. I almost always do. And I thought 150 pages ago we were going to get to the resignation. We still aren't there yet. It's long and drawn out. Like I said, I feel like I'm living in America, 1973, 74, waiting for the president to resign. This is a good book. I read, I don't know, what was it, 60, 70 pages yesterday morning. And I had planned on reading another 60 or 70 this morning and getting to, that would have officially got me to, because I looked at the chapters, it would have officially got me to the resignation, and I just feel like a great weight, a great load would have been taken off my chest. But I read Grisham instead. But that's okay. That's okay. At least I'm reading, right? Another book that I plan on starting after I get done with Nixon, and I'm hoping I can get done with that real soon. Should be soon. And the book I'm going to start, because of where I'm at in my history class, is The Witches, Salem, 1692 by Stacy Schiff. And I am totally excited about this book. And what better time, you know, we're getting ready. I know we're still in mid-September, but October's right around the corner. And, you know, my daughter was pointing out that, you know, what a great time to read that. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And this book's really cool. Look at the end pages. Those are the end pages, and it's got, you know, it's got some photos in it from the time period, some of the stuff in there. Pretty excited to read it. It's got a lot of stuff on, looks like on, you know, the history of what witchcraft and the beliefs of it and all that kind of stuff. And I think she does a fairly thorough job of going through this book. But I'm real excited to, oh, here's the back end pages, really cool. I'm real excited to read this. Let me share with you what it says. It says, the panic began in early 1692 over an exceptionally raw Massachusetts winter. When a minister's niece began to writhe and roar, it spread quickly, confounding the most educated men and prominent politicians in the colony. Neighbors accused neighbors, husbands accused wives, parents and children one another. It ended less than a year later, but not before 19 men and women had been hanged and an elderly man crushed to death. Speaking loudly and emphatically, adolescent girls stood at the center of the crisis. Along with suffrage and prohibition, the Salem witch trials represent one of the few moments when women played the central role in American history. Drawing masterfully from on the archives, Stacy Schiff introduces us to the strains on a Puritan adolescent's life and to authorities whose delicate agendas were at risk. She illuminates the demands of a rigorous faith, the vulnerability of settlements adrift from the mother country, perched at a politically tumultuous time on the edge of what a visitor termed a remote, rocky, barren, bushy, wild, woody wilderness. With devastating clarity, and the textures and tensions of colonial life emerge. Hidden patterns subtly, startlingly detach themselves from the darkness. Schiff brings early American anxieties to the fore to align them brilliantly with, with our own. In an era of religious provocations, crowdsourcing, and invisible enemies, this enthralling story makes more sense than ever. The Witches is Schiff's riveting account of a seminal episode, a primal American mystery unveiled in crackling detail and lyrical prose by one of our most acclaimed historians. So, it just sounds really good, and it's got some good blurbs on the back. You got one from Joseph Ellis and Patricia Cornwell, and anyway, I looked it up, and I know Steve Donahue has done a review on the book, so I'm really excited to do that because it's going to go right along with what we're doing in class. And as I've shared with you before, that's how I like to do my reading. Is I try to read those history books that go right with what we're covering. And in class, we're also going to do a DBQ assignment over the Salem witch trials, and it's going to show a whole nother side of maybe why those trials happened and why people were being accused. And so very, very interesting stuff. And it's, that's from a viewpoint that nobody ever looks at it. And so I'm pretty excited about that. Yesterday we got to go, my family, I'd been kind of stressed out at work with just different things. And I told her we got to get out of town. We got to go somewhere. And so the idea was I was going to go, we're going to go apple picking at the Red Barn Farm down in Weston, Missouri, like we do every fall, and had a wonderful, wonderful time. We got some great pictures of our family, which, as the kids get older, sometimes you don't get as many of those. And so that was really good. We got, my daughter got to pick, my youngest got to pick some apples. We got some pumpkins for decoration around the house and the porch. And so we were real excited for that. And then what I was really excited for was we went to Barnes & Noble. And usually they have some books marked down at Barnes & Noble that, interest me. Went through their clearance and there was nothing in there that interested me. And then I went up to the stacks where the history section is. Well, like probably all bookstores at this point, their section has shrank. I liked everything I saw, or almost everything I saw. I was real excited about a couple of those. My wife asked me, "Do you see anything you want to get?" I said, "Yeah, but I can't force myself to spend $28, $35, $40 on a book." The cheapest was like 18, maybe 16, $16, $17, $18 was the cheapest. And when I know in the back of my head I can get used books for $1 or $2, I just can't do it. And so I came away with nothing. That was personally a disappointment, but my girls all got stuff there. I'm the one that didn't, but that's okay. I don't need to get some every single time. What am I saying? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So I was disappointed. But anyway, we had a good time yesterday, good family time, had masks on. Everybody that was out, and there weren't that many out. That was good. Everybody had masks. And so I was very happy to see that. So I didn't feel like I was in danger. When we went to Red Barn Farm, everybody was socially distanced, and there really wasn't enough people to even worry about the social distancing part, because they, with less people, they're spread out, and so they were all over the farm. And so I was happy with that. I didn't have to stress out about that. And so anyway, that's been my week this week, and I hope all of you have had a really good week. I did have an awesome idea for a tag that I want to share with you that I hope everybody will do for Tag Tuesday. I kind of got inspired yesterday morning, and I taped the tag, and then I was like, oh no, I forgot this. Oh no, I forgot that. So I am going to redo it right here, and then I will get it uploaded. And I hope everybody will consider doing the tag for Tag Tuesday. Anyway, look forward to that. Please look for that video, and hope everybody has a great week. Till next time, BookTube, happy reading.